Women are powerful and have accomplished great things. Yet, sometimes we suffer from self-doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. We often believe that we are not good enough. These negative beliefs stop us from achieving our goals. Welcome to Sprinting to Success, a podcast dedicated to women who have experienced struggles, yet found ways to step into their power, their greatness, and learn to embrace challenges. These women will share their stories and give you insights to help you on your path so you can follow your dreams. And now, here's your host, Esmie Lawrence.
My name is Esmie Lawrence, and welcome to Sprinting to Success podcast. This episode is sponsored by Esmie's co-author course. Esmie will help you become a co-author. You write your story, or Esmie will interview you and turn your interview into your story. Use your story, only 4,000 words, to inspire others, speak on stages, do workshops, or become an authority. Contact Esmie at esmielawrence.com. And now, my guest is a social business development consultant and certified health coach. She empowers individuals, communities, and organizations to recover from trauma and build resiliency. She is a Ford Fellow, Smithsonian Fellow, and has received the Governor of Hawaiiʻs Award for Distinguished Outreach. My guest today is Lani Yamasaki. So, Lani, welcome to Sprinting to Success podcast. I am so happy that you're on the show.
Oh, Esmie, mahalo. I am just so honored. I'm so excited to be here with you. Mahalo for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. And of course, you're coming from the beautiful Hawaii.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Oh, I can tell from the flowers that's sitting right beside you. That's a tropical plant, which is so nice to see.
Yeah, look what you're wearing, that beautiful pink.
Yes.
The two resonate, they vibrate together.
They do. I wanted to wear something tropical, something with the colors, something, that has nice bright colors. Okay, so one of the first question I want to ask you is this. What it is that you're successful at doing now that you are proud of? What is it that you can tell us about that?
I create social legacy programs for individuals and for organizations and companies. Everyone who comes to me understands that they have a purpose to enhance community wellness, as well as take care of our aina. And aina is a Hawaiian word for earth, nature. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So that's really good that, it's really nice that you can kind of be more holistic and,
Yes.
Not just talk about, just talk about just, one dimensional, but just go, kind of everywhere and go to the earth and, the creator and all that stuff. But we'll get back to that. So now I want you to go back to the challenges you had as a child.
Okay, where do I begin? Can I say that I feel that like many people like ourselves who are out there, wanting to support community, especially in wellness, we came from, and I'll speak for myself, I came from a childhood that did have a lot of challenges. I am raised as a traditional Hawaiian person. I'm multicultural. So I'm Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese, and have English blood.
Nice.
And yeah, and we were raised in a very traditional, I was raised here in Hawaii. And so I'm going to be 60, right? So I was raised in that generation where we're the bridge between the wisdom of our grandparents, and yet we're still very contemporary society. And a lot of our traditions are traditional Hawaiian healing traditions, right? For instance, we're really subjugated, we're submerged. And so I learned how to reclaim the traditions of my ancestors, of the Hawaiian ancestors, as well as Japanese and Chinese growing up. And, when you go to school, I went to the only school for Hawaiian children in the world. It's a wonderful school. And even then, it was very much mainstream Western education. Hawaiian culture was brought in, but it wasn't the wisdom of our ancestors were not really upheld and esteemed the way it is today.
Right. So the schooling was Americanized. Would you say that word?
Yes, it was really beautiful foundation in Hawaiian traditions, but more at that time, think about it, this was in the 60s.
Right.
So it was still more mainstream
Right.
Western.
Right. So
Mhm.
then you have the Japanese ancestry, you have the Chinese, Hawaiian. So at home, what was it like as a child?
Well, at home, you know what? I was an army brat, so I was raised here in Hawaii mainly. But when I was 5 years old, 5 to 7, we traveled to Germany and lived in Bremerhaven. My dad was the master sergeant, and when you talk about what life was like, well, again, here I am. I'm learning my own culture away from school, and now here I am, or here we are, living in Germany with families from all around the world. And really, to this day, people who have been in the military are like dearest friends, because we understand what it's like to be the last one in class, to come from a different culture, and to learn how to communicate, and to learn that what is not being said is often the loudest thing in the room.
Wow.
So learning
Wow.
how to be, work with our gut, our na'au, and really communicate from a sense, a kinesthetic sense.
Right. So when you say what's not being said is the loudest statement in the room, expand on that.
Yeah, well, when you walk into a situation, there's a lot of protocol. For instance, in Japanese society and Hawaiian, right? Um, There's circumstances that you might allude to, but it's not considered polite to actually say things out loud. So you have to be perceptive to what is not being shared, but to be very observant about what is there, and find a way to still communicate authentically, and
Right.
yet, in a respectful way. Does that make sense?
Yes, interesting. So then now, how long did you stay in Germany for?
Well, it was for 2 years,
2 years. Okay.
It was formative though, because when you think about when you're that young, the veils are very thin, you absorb everything, right? And we traveled to 13 different countries within that time.
Wow.
Yeah, 13 different countries. And being an Olympian, you were with people from all around the world, right? You had to feel people in order to
That's right.
communicate with them.
Exactly. I traveled extensively, and I traveled to a lot of different countries, and it's nice. And that's why, you pick up so much of the subtle things, when you go to different countries. And well, it's funny because one of the things, when I went, I think it was the Yugoslavia I went to, and we were in the elevator with a lot of different people, and reggae music came on. I was like, what? Reggae music in Yugoslavia in the elevator? Like, really? Honestly? And it brought a smile to my face because it made me realize that the world is international.
That's right.
When they have reggae
Really?
music in the elevator, people are like, tapping their head to it, right? The Bob Marley song. It's like,
Oh, yes.
what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And you served as a global ambassador.
as athletes, we are all ambassadors, right? Because we represent our country, our family, and so it's you have to also make sure that you're on your best behavior, when you represent your country. So
Yes.
so then now go back. So you went back from Germany, you traveled all over the world, and you
Yes.
went back to Hawaii as a teenager.
Yes.
Okay. So
No, I was actually quite young. I was quite young when I went back. Hmm.
okay. So what was your life like as a teenager?
My life as a teenager really was spent with plants. I love plants. In our family, we come from a tradition of la'au lapa'au, which means traditional healing with plants. So at that time, I already knew I was okay. I was never like, my friends were boy crazy. I'm just going to say it. A lot of them were boy crazy, and I was considered a nerd. And so you could find me in the library, or I was in the forest. I was playing with plants. I was communicating with plants. I was learning from my
Wow.
elders how to create, herbal concoctions for healing. And
Wow.
that's what my teenagehood was like.
Wow. So you were working on healing and knowing the different plants in your culture. And I mean, and so this is you're a teenager. So how does
Yes.
that happen?
It happens because I was an introvert, and I still am. As me, I am an introvert. And so I was more happy and comfortable, playing in the forest, listening to the plants, listening to their teachings. It was home to me. It was home to me. And you know what? I learned at that time that it was okay to be different.
Right.
Thank gosh for my elders, right? Thank gosh for my elders, because I mean, I did not fit into the mainstream. I listened to music that it was called, that's turkey music. People would tell me, wherever that expression came from, that's turkey music. And I really had to go deep inside my relationship, my traditional Hawaiian values, which leads with relationship with divinity or the relationship to creator, and my relationship to my elders who are my teachers and guides. I had to really rest in that and know that I was at the right place,
Right.
right time. And in spite of the outward pressure, the peer pressure to kind of fit in, I could let it go.
Right. So you said you didn't fit in. In what way didn't you fit in as a
Well,
teenager?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I had a lot of friends, but can I just say that my friends, none of us were in the cliques. We were all, believe it or not, we were also kids that were other army brats or military brats, kids that were well traveled, so that, when we came back to school, we already had experienced different cultures. So
Right.
we related to the world in a different way. We already understood that, you know, listen, kid, this is it, right? Listen, kid, you're not the only one here on this planet, and you're just this small little being in relationship to the rest of the world. So pay attention, understand that there are other cultures that you need to be cognizant of, understand that you are part of a global community, understand your part in it, and how are you here to serve?
Right. So how did the different cultures exist in your high school?
Oh my gosh. So if I go back to my high school, so I went to Kamehameha, the only school for children of Native Hawaiian ancestry, but we're all of mixed heritage. At that time, I think there's less than 5,000 pure-blooded Hawaiians in the world. So we had all this diversity, right? And so our diversity really reflected in the foods that we ate, for instance, in our music. So even though we had Hawaiian music, we brought in the Portuguese music. We brought in
Wow.
the Filipino music. In our PE classes, we learn all these different traditions of dancing, of folk dancing. And so it was beautiful. I mean, Hawaiian was always that foundation, but we were reminded that our heritage is multicultural. We're mixed.
Right. And so any challenges within the school system at that time?
Well, oh yeah, yes. And I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it.
Say it.
All right, I'm going to say it. Oh,
Say it.
okay. So I found that sometimes there was some overt, it's hard to say it, but I'm going to say it, prejudice, meaning that many of us wanted to go to top-notch colleges. Like I had my eyes on Radcliffe. At that time, it was just Radcliffe. And then it turned to Radcliffe Harvard or Harvard Radcliffe. I can't remember now. And then I was looking at women's colleges, top women's colleges, and I was told by my counselor, "Oh no, you're never going to get in."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Why? I mean, I'm almost an A plus student, A plus.
Right.
Why not?" And I was told, "You're not good enough."
He said that you're not good enough?
He said I wasn't good enough. He said I wasn't good
Wow.
enough. I didn't have the type of extracurricular activities that colleges of this caliber would want. And I went back to my elders, my kupuna, and I said, "This is what I was told." And she
Wow.
looked me in the eye and she said, "And what do you think?" And I said, I believe that I meant to go to these colleges." And she said, "Well, then you don't listen to the external. You need to go inside, align
Yes.
with creator, with your na'au, with your gut and your knowingness, and you do what you think is appropriate. So I applied at 16. When you were a junior in high school, we got counseling about what college you're going to go to. At 16, I applied to my colleges and I got in. It was called early decision. I ended up going to a brilliant women's college. It's Scripps College in Claremont, California. And no, this is not, I hope this is not bragging. It's just sharing the caliber of the school, right?
Right.
And when I got in, I just fell on the ground. When I got that letter, just crying. And that was one of my earliest lessons that thankfully my kupuna, my elder, taught me, which is there's the external, right? But you need to go inwards and really listen to that inner voice and go for what you believe. And so I got in college when I was 16, but I graduated with my class and then I went to school. But at least by the time I hit senior year, I knew exactly where I was going to go.
Right. You know, I am so glad that you didn't listen to the external, because the
Yeah.
external don't know you. They just look at you from your external thing and judge you according to what they think how you fit. But then when you went and you talk to people who care and love you, they say,
Yes.
don't listen to them. What does it say inside?
Yes.
And that's what you do, because I mean, if you listen to external, sometimes they rob you of your future.
That's right.
Because you believe them, and you have,
Exactly.
no reason to believe them, but you believe them, and they will take away your future. And so, listeners out there, if somebody tells you that you can't do something, just, go inside, share it with people that you love, and say, why am I not good enough?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that this wasn't a good counselor, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
the Hawaiian people, my childhood, like many of us my age now, there was like Hawaiians are not smart enough. You're never going to make it to the top. The
Right.
happy-go-lucky Hawaiians, instead of, being playful, which is le'a, is a Hawaiian value, because we realize that when we play, that's when we can receive. This is when we can receive a lot of the knowledge and a lot of the life skills, but we're always so serious. We don't allow for that influence of play, which play teaches you, right? It's a form of experimentation and finding your place in the world.
Right. And for the people who don't understand the culture, wouldn't understand that.
That's right.
Right. And so you think, oh, you're just lucky go, you're the stereotypical, thing about Hawaiians, and not understanding that, yeah, playful, it draws things into you. It's from your culture. So,
Exactly.
right. So let's move on now as an adult. Okay.
Yes.
What struggles that you've had in your life?
Oh, well, I've been a solopreneur for more than 30 something years.
Now explain a
Right.
solopreneur for people who don't know what that is.
I have been self-employed for a very long time. I'm an entrepreneur, but I did it by myself. I was solo. I was on my own. And that was my life journey that was my spiritual path of evolution as well. One of my main spiritual paths to consciously evolve. And one of my challenges was I was usually at that time, because I started in my mid-20s, I was usually the youngest one in the room. And so therefore, when you're the youngest one, many times you're invalidated.
Right.
Because again, I look the way I do. I had more stereotypes placed on me. Like, how would you know that? I mean, aren't you Hawaiian or aren't you Japanese? It's like,
Or Chinese, or
Chinese, right? I'm
what
a
are you?
person. Yes. It was like, it was between like being a woman, being young, and having these different ethnicities that, that was such a humbling time of staying in my center and saying yes. And so, yeah, my challenge was really, again, always, always finding my center. But I had to learn humility, right? Because when you're that young too, sometimes you think you know more than you do.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so my challenge has always been yeah, what I share, but also knowing more than I should. Does that make sense? I
Right.
mean,
So what brought you to being more humble? What experience brought that on? Because as I know, as you know, when you're in your early 20s, you think you know everything. You're
I
invincible,
know.
right? And you're the smartest one, graditis. After you finish university, you know everything. So what
Oh,
brought you to realizing that, you know what? I mean, you can learn from others too.
oh, my elders, because so here I would be brought into these very, very prominent corporations to be the consultant. Again, the youngest one in the room. Yet you had elders there that you're working with, and very venerated and respected elders. They put me in my place very beautifully, like Hawaiian elders do. They just say in a gentle voice. Like one very venerated kupuna, our elder, very sweetly said to me, took me aside, not in front of everybody, and she said in Hawaiian, she said, "You may want to go inside and see how you're actually showing yourself, because sometimes you come across as being a little haughty." As soon as she said that, I burst into tears, because that wasn't in at all. I knew that was not in my intention field. But then I realized that I may have come across that way because I was afraid. I mean,
Haughty meaning conceited, like
haughty, no, more like
what's it mean?
arrogant, not
Arrogance. Okay.
not conceited, but like know it all. Like I know it all. And when I think about, well, I didn't have a mirror when I was in that boardroom, so I'm going to have to take the feedback. I accept it from my elders, right?
Right.
And I had to, I mean, I cried and cried and cried, and I realized, well, if I come across that way, maybe it's because, as the youngest one in the room, I'm dealing with so many people. Like, why is she here? We are older than her. And I was dealing with a lot of, I may have felt defensive, and so I may have come across that way. Again, I can only take the feedback. And
Right.
so I took that very seriously.
Right. And so what did you do? So with that feedback, how did you approach the next meeting?
I asked for feedback.
Ah,
I did. I looked around the room, that boardroom, and I said, I did. I said I had a talk with Auntie Pat, and Auntie Pat shared that I may be coming across as knowing more than I really do. And I invite you, if I come across in a way that seems like I, you know, less than humble, I really invite you to show me, to let me know, because I'm here to be of service. And what I've learned is that when you come from that place of true humility, it it opens people. In this case, it opened up people. Their own guards let down, and then they embraced me, and they said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We know you're doing the best you can." And we became a team. We became a family then. And that was one of my biggest lessons early on.
wow. That's nice that you learned it early.
Oh,
So tell me, what does that mean to you?
oh, the ocean for me, the ocean is represented by Kanaloa, and Kanaloa is our Hawaiian god, right? And the ocean for us is the dreaming, or the dream time. It is pure potential. So when the sun sets into the ocean, it signals that you're now in the land of Po, P-O. This is the land where it's dark, it's wet, it's moist, it's full of potential. And this is the time of the ancestors, where you can receive guidance from the ancestors.
Right. And so in Hawaiian culture, what does the ocean mean to the people?
Oh my gosh, I think could you please repeat that? You
Yes.
froze.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So in Hawaiian culture, what is the ocean? What does it mean to the people? What does ocean mean to the Hawaiian people in
So
general?
So in general, this is what it means. What's also, okay, we have a saying. The saying is, without a healthy reef, we will not have a healthy community. So the ocean is a source of life for us,
Right.
a
Because that's
source
what.
of life.
So because I know there's a lot of fresh fish in Hawaii, and so do people still live off the sea?
Well, we're trying to, and I say that because we have been impacted by global warming. And so our coral has the coral bleaching has been unprecedented. So our lot of our reefs have been dying off. Our fish population has diminished. So it's our generation, who's working with the younger generation to bring back our traditional ways of resource management so that we can ensure that our families have the ability to be self-sufficient through the land.
Right. And so how does one, do that? Like if somebody goes, I mean, I'm not a big person or what, and so what can I do as an Hawaiian? What could you say to them to make sure that they, just live off the land, well, off the ocean, and they don't take more than they should? How do they do that?
That's exactly what we're taught, Esmie. Only take what you need. And so that means understanding what lokahi is, for instance. And lokahi is our Hawaiian value, which means harmony and unity. But it also means in practice, it's a wellness practice, and it is balance. It is the interdependence between the creator, between nature and humanity. It's our ancestral wellness blueprint, which shows how to live in balance in all worlds so that you can create true self-sufficiency through the land, that there's true harmony in the land. And it really begins with understanding these ancient Hawaiian values and practices, we come from a spiritual community. Hawaiian culture is spiritually based.
Right.
So when you understand that we are spiritually based, that our values and practices are based upon an interdependence with creator, with nature, then being a steward this is what we're here to be and to do.
Right. I love that. Just being in harmony, in balance with everything, with the land, with the water, with God.
Yeah.
So what do you teach? So what are the things that you teach your students?
How to live lokahi, basically how to live in balance and harmony with creator, with your ancestors, with nature. And this is really important because, when you live in harmony in this way, this is how you come into understanding your purpose in life, as well as understanding your kūleana. And kūleana is different from purpose in that kūleana is actually your lineal responsibility, which is your privilege and honor to carry through. It goes side by side with purpose.
Right.
And so when people come to me and they want to create a legacy program, for instance, a social legacy program, I always ask them, the social legacy program that you want to create, is it in alignment with your kūleana and with your purpose? Because if it is, then we can talk. Otherwise, I would question why you even want to create this kind of legacy program if you do not have a direct relationship in being a kahu. A kahu means like a guardian
Right.
of this legacy.
Right. And so do you teach them, if they come to you and they don't know they need to be guardians, do you teach that, or do you turn them away? Just say, I don't teach that kind of stuff. Or what do you do?
That's a great question. Actually, no, I absolutely embrace that, as long as I know that they're very sincere in wanting to understand their kūleana and their purpose, because
Right.
it starts with that.
Right. So,
That's my belief. Mhm.
so Lani, what's your purpose?
My purpose, good. Oh, this is great. My purpose is to be a catalyst for people to understand and find their kūleana and to actualize it. That is my purpose.
Right. Oh, I love that. And so I want you to take all the knowledge you have now and then bring it back to when you were a little girl.
Mhm.
What words of wisdom would you tell yourself so you can empower her?
Oh my gosh. The greatest lesson you might ever learn, there's twofold. Number one, that you need to learn how to love yourself
Right.
before you can even think about being of service to others. And that you are the greatest mystery in the universe, meaning you need to find out what your role is in this universe and how you can be of service.
Wow, those are great words of wisdom for your younger self. Right. So what would you like to share with our audience today?
I feel you are such a great, you just have such a great way of conversing, Esmie. I feel that I've
Oh,
shared,
thank you.
you're just so graceful and so natural. And okay, I would want to, I've been sharing what I want to share, but I would really want to emphasize the importance of understanding that find your kūleana, find out who your ancestors were and what they did, because when you do, you will have a better understanding of who you are,
Right.
what you're here to do, what your kūleana is, and how you're meant to serve. And then from there, really understand that to live lokahi, to find your relationship with divinity, to find your relationship with Creator, with God, your ancestors, that is a true support system that will sustain you through thick and thin, and will help you to navigate your life. And when you have those relationships, there's no need to go outward. I mean, have your wise elders with you, have your peers with you, but understand when you have that kind of relationship, when you live lokahi, that interdependence with Creator, with ancestors, with, have that relationship with them and yourself, that dialogue and your elders, no need to look outside for external validation.
Go inwards.
Go inwards.
I love that. Lani, great words of wisdom to share with our audience. So thank you for listening to Sprinting to Success podcast. And to learn more about Lani, go to esmielawrence.com. Thank you so much, Lani.
Thank you. And Esmie, I am so grateful, and I feel that I am sprinting to success with you, Esmie Lawrence.
Woohoo! We are sprinting together.
We are.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And have an amazing day.
You as well. Mahalo for having me. I'm so honored, Esmie.
Thank you for listening to Sprinting to Success with your host, Esmie Lawrence. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this show on iTunes. For more information about Esmie and to hear other episodes of the show, go to esmielawrence.com. The information in this podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional or medical treatment or advice. Always seek advice from your healthcare provider.